is the
President Commissioner.
Oh, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folani, and my guest this morning is Mr. Mike Igini. Mike is very well known to our viewers, resident electoral commissioner in Akwa Ibom.
State.
You know, so welcome to you, Mike. And
yes,
there's a sense in which you're just coming back from the field, so to speak, and I'm referring to the Anambra election. A lot of apprehension, but I guess from all accounts, INEC did well. No election is perfect. There were areas that that people would have wanted that might have been different or better, but by and large, as is evidenced by most of the participants, everybody is saying kudos to INEC. Now let's look at some of those, some of the lessons that might have been learned from there. Or maybe we should even not look at the Anambra election per se, since it's over and done with, but look at going forward from there. Now, all of this was done under the Electoral Act the way it is. But in progress right now, so to speak, is the amendment to that act that has been forwarded to the president. Do you have any apprehensions about, because I've been hearing a lot of talk about sections 49, section 50, having to do with various aspects that could affect the whole thing. Tell me what your apprehensions as an individual are. I don't imagine these are INEC apprehensions.
Yeah, thank you very much. First, I need to commend the people of Anambra State, all stakeholders that made it possible for the election to be conducted in Anambra State, because there were clear grave implications if election did not hold in Anambra on the 6th of November. There would have been a wrong signal sent to the empirical world that on account of insecurity in our country, we are unable to conduct the election. So we must thank first my colleagues. I was not there. But one way or the other, we all made our contribution in terms of idea. At least more than 12 technical staff were sent from Akwa Ibom, and we were on ground with my colleagues who were really on ground. So I must commend the commission. First, we also must commend, first and foremost, the leadership of the commission, because at a time when there were, apocalyptic projections that election would not hold, the chairman of the commission was consistent, was encouraging everybody that despite the attacks on our valuable asset, that it will be in our best interest for the election to hold. And that was also keyed in by other stakeholders. And so we commend people like these, particularly security agencies. And I must say this here. You see, when you recognize the positive contributions of stakeholders in a election project plan like this, you are invariably reinforcing the kind of behavior you want to see again in future elections. Across the country, the performance of security was well commended. So I'm not even surprised that we have someone like the DIG Ops. We commend the office of the IG and the DIG Ops, because that has been a man who was an AIG in Zone 6 when we went through a very difficult situation in 2019 conducting the election. And he showed that he's a good professional. He was on ground there. So we must commend security. This commendation is for them to also know that when Nigerians, also make observation about the absence of neutrality on the conduct of some of their personnel, they should take it seriously in time past going forward. Now, issues about challenges that were observed in the Anambra election, as you rightly said, are issues that will be taken on board. But we must take note that Anambra situation was a very peculiar one. It is the peculiarity of that environment that led to some of the challenges that we experienced as a commission in that election. I mean, what would a commission do? You have done recruitment of pool staff. Polling must be manned by youth corpus. You have made 50% payments to transporters to convey men and materials. On or up to 12 midnight, there's no evidence that people will not show up. But in the morning of election, a number of people did not show up.
Okay.
That was what led to, late delay, arrival. Then because personnel, some of who have been trained, did not show up, like the young graduates who are UCOM members. And again, we must give it to them, though painfully, that no parent will naturally allow his child who has spent money to train. I have a regard to people, youth corpus have died during elections before, to go to Anambra. As a matter of fact, how many journalists will agree to go to Anambra and all that? So, that some of them did not turn up.
Yes. And this, the beavers thing.
Yes, all right.
These are the people that especially were trained
to man
these
so
beavers.
As a result of that, INEC was under extreme emergency to now ensure that in a polling unit, you're supposed to have 4 pool officials, and you have other polling without pool officials. Auxiliary staff have to be trained on that day in order to be able to ensure that polling units are manned. And even at that, you remember, we still have to have a repeat of Ihiala. But ultimately, which is the biggest news to the Nigerian people going forward, is that in the final analysis, the commission delivered in ensuring that the vote of the people, as expressed through the ballot in Anambra State, was actually counted and taken into account in making a return. That has been well affirmed by the people. So now, going to the question,
it was INEC being able to do this, shall we say, emergency training of replacement staff.
Exactly.
That even enabled the whole procedure to
be able to get to where we are. Now you ask a question about going forward.
Yes.
About what are the concerns?
Yes.
With respect to
the Electoral
Act amendment. I must say that Nigerians are concerned over the current debate that is going on with respect to one item that is contained in the Electoral Act Amendment Bill to be sent to Mr. President. And that has to do with the issue of whether it should be direct or indirect primaries. But before we go into some issue that we need to take seriously, we need to observe and make a very strong appeal, a very passionate one to all stakeholders, that the way we listen to one another in resolving the issue of whether there should be transmission or no transmission, which today we are all happy with ourselves as a people, showing clearly that whenever we listen to ourselves, we are likely to have a far more objective view of whatever position we take at any given point in time. I am saying this because in this bill, you have profound amendments that would take the Nigerian election to a totally different level, that we as a people will be proud of. That even our neighboring countries, who are even at the moment coming to Nigeria seeking for technical assistance, they will also be very proud that we are able to have a system.
Does any particular example jump to mind when you speak this way?
Yes.
Does any particular example?
Exactly.
I know that
the example is that today, for instance, the online CVR, Nigeria is the first country in Africa who's commenced the process of what we call online voter registration. We are the first.
Okay, that's the CVR.
The CVR, that the continued voter registration exercise, which you do you go online,
yes.
You put in your data, then subsequently you come to the office to submit your biometrics.
Okay.
But I was going to land on the concern with respect to the ongoing debate. And that is that we should be careful the way we manage this debate. First, it's purely political party affairs. How to conduct their primary is not an issue. INEC under Section 85 is only required to monitor whether there is compliance. But INEC does not conduct political party primaries. That should be noted. But the concern here is that if this debate is not properly managed, and given the fact that that item is one out of very many good work that have been done on that bill, to amend several provisions of the electoral, like Section 52, Section 49, that hitherto now was having only 2 subsections. I will give the detail. We must avoid, history is the graveyard and a reminder to people when we have situations like this. Under the Nnamani leadership Senate, after all the entire work that had been done on a bill, just the issue about third term truncated everything, and everything was thrown away with the baby and the bathwater. And a great opportunity to reform our electoral process, we lost it. Similarly, before the 2019 election, suddenly the issue of schedule of election, which one comes first, which of course is the domain of the commission. That's a power reserved constitutionally for the commission. Of course, the president observed that quite correctly. Another issue, we lost the opportunity. Now that you have a bill that contains issues about the beavers, electronic transmission of results, and several other profound work, commendable work that this National Assembly has done, they are all contained in that bill. If we use issue about direct or indirect primaries, that would truncate the job that has been done. So quickly, I want to advise here that the National Assembly, because there's no moderator now in this debate, there's no moderator at all. Nobody is moderating at the moment. You see governors on one side, National Assembly on the other side. We as umpire, we don't have a role to play in this. All we need to do is to provide technical advice. But before I provide the technical advice, I want to hasten to say here, to suggest that in view of the fact that this debate is becoming intractable, it may be necessary for the National Assembly to remove direct or indirect primary controversy debate from the bill containing all other items.
So as to safeguard
to safeguard
the rest of the work that has been done,
all the good
in
that
case
has been done.
This becomes an intractable issue.
It becomes very toxic. So we can have that debate as long as we can, but so that they can now send this particular one to the president for his assent, so that this, the sanctity of the law is key to the conduct of election.
But excising that part out of the act,
the
bill, I beg your pardon, excising that part out, I don't know, that seems to be like a tall order for the National Assembly to go back unless they consider advice.
No.
Because their attitude might well be that we've concluded work on it, and it was a democratic process, and we send the whole thing off now.
You see, we know that there are other processes that National Assembly can also take. There are other constitutional routes to deal with this matter. But my reading of the National Assembly, having regard to very many of them that we know we interact with, and their commitment to this project, I don't see them not thinking in this direction, because it is easy. All they just need to do, get a document, remove that from the bill, let that be a separate thing. Issue about Section 87, let just be a single item so that the debate can go on. But remind you, we don't have the time for a very long debate on this matter. But the one that have to do with the rest of the country, of course the other one has to do with the rest of the country anyway, but those ones are so profound, because we are talking about the changes that we are making in INEC. You see, if you watch the commission, we have been doing everything possible to continue to reform, because we know that as an institution, if we fail to respond to the dictate of our time, changing in technology, in bringing additional value to the electoral process, clearly we are going to be overtaken by the decline of chaos and decay. We don't want to do that.
Okay.
We don't want to go that route. And that is why the innovations we have put in place, like the beavers, is now a new sheriff in town.
The bimodal voter accreditation system.
Which is different from the smart card readers.
Exactly, and not too many people are familiar with it.
Sure.
What is it exactly? But just looking at the name, Beavers bimodal, that is two ways.
Absolutely.
Bimodal voter accreditation system. Now, what is it like a device, like a POS? Is it like an iPad?
It's like this.
Okay.
Now, you know, technology is always evolving. You have never heard before that from 4G, we are going to go back to 2G. It's always going up. Now, what we have done, having regard to what we did in 2015 with the smart card reader, is that with the bimodal accreditation system, using the beavers first under the SCR, what you have is the fingerprint.
SCR is what?
Smart card reader.
Oh, okay.
SCR.
Okay.
Thereafter in this program should be referred to as SCR, which means smart card readers. Now the smart card reader perform the function of confirming the genuineness of a PVC as well as the biometric of a voter.
Okay. The PVC, personal voters card.
Authenticated, so that you can vote. But the beavers is of a higher capacity and capability with a bigger memory. A beavers does two fundamental things. In fact, there are three. One is that the beavers has your biometrics as well as your facial images. To cure the problem we had with people not being able to have their biometric confirmed. Iori, if today, for any reason, you say your biometric did not work, what about your face?
Yes, yes.
So we can confirm your face.
So what would have been a failure?
Exactly. So, all right. Number two, the beavers, whereas in the smart card reader, your biodata, your photo are embedded in the chip on the PVC to be read by the card reader. With respect to the beavers, your data, everything is stored in the data. So we can call your data.
So it's in the cloud.
It's in the cloud. It's already it's already in the beavers on the device.
The device.
It's on the device already. It's already there.
You have downloaded it
there. So we can call it. And I'll give you an example. On the 11th of September, just 2 months ago, in Delta, in a House of Assembly by-election, a lady came to the polling unit with the PVC of her mother. Because if you check Nigeria, if you check your PVC, you will have observed that because for a very long time, going about 10 years, the pictures have already almost faded. So she thought that she could deceive the presiding officer. But this is a new, yes, that is the beavers. So when they came in, what he did simply was that because under the beavers, all we require from you is the last 4 digits of your VIN number. Because every Nigerian registered with in our database, you have your unique VIN number. We can take your VIN number, we can take just your name, and it was imputed. It was shown that this card is not for this lady. She was trying to argue. What we did was to press a button and we record the mother when she registered in 2011. Record the face of the mother in 2011. So the question is, this photo, are you the one? It took a lot of begging because she was to be arrested. That is the beauty of the beaver. So the issue about, oh, my fingerprint, let us use incident form. That is the end of incident form.
Okay.
And finally,
so before you go to the final, when there were complaints with the beavers that it wasn't working, what was that about, that it wasn't working?
The complaint was largely on account of the fact that in those areas that were affected, The emergency people we have to engage to train.
Okay.
They properly did not understand. I mean, you heard people said INEC brought people who were not properly trained, so they could not handle the system properly because there were people we have to hurriedly, the commission had to hurriedly train within hours to use it. Otherwise, in data when it was used, we have been piloting it. It was 97%. Don't forget that even in this election, remember the controversy about e-transmission. Did you hear anything about e-transmission? There was no problem about e-transmission because by the evening of on the 6th of November, the commission had uploaded on the portal, result portal, a total of 4,987 polling unit results out of 5,634 after deducting 86 polling units of the total 5,720. That gives you 88.5%. So
that is a procedure that has come to stay.
It has come to stay. It has come to stay.
And there's a sense in which our elections, all other things being equal, will never be the same again.
Oh, look, Iyori, let me tell you.
All these
we always
come way past all these matters.
Absolutely.
Hijacking the ballot boxes.
By hijacking, we are putting an end to that. Very soon, the judiciary, the court, tribunal will have no business at all, because you could see all the elections we have conducted in recent times. None has been challenged in terms of the actual conduct, in terms of return made. All the issues that were raised in tribunal had to do with the candidate, how did you emerge from primaries, what's your certificate, those are the issues. But in terms of the verdict of the people, it is a different thing completely. And that's why I want it to be. Because we are concerned about the expanding empire of the court system in determining who has emerged as a leader. We have to be very careful. It's just like the issue about the primaries. They are talking about whether direct or indirect. We are hearing already that some people want to go to court. Now, Obaseki JSC, the problem we have in our country, Iyori, is that we learn nothing from history at all. In this same country, in 1982, 1983, or 1979, you remember the popular case of Okafor versus Onwaha, when the then Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Obaseki JSC, as he was then, when they were determining issue about how a candidate emerged, way back in 1979. This problem we are having today, that is now a debate that is likely to truncate the entire bill, has been on since 1979. And what did Obaseki said, who gave the lead judgment at the Supreme Court? He warned, which is what we are hearing now, is been happening. We want to go to court. Our court are now being made to answer political questions. Who should be a candidate? Why should the court of law be made to answer political questions? That was why Obaseki JSC, as it was then, made the point that look, in interpreting the provision section, a section of the 1982 Electoral Act that says that whenever there is a crisis as to how a candidate has emerged in an election, records according to that provision should be handed to the leaders of the political party. So over time, this issue about indirect puts it in the hands of what people and so on has been there. Obaseki, in his judgment, now said, look, the invitation by the Supreme Court to want to answer political question is a wrong one. But with respect to this is what the law has said, and therefore warn that political questions should not be brought to the court. And as recent as last year, a retired Supreme Court justice in England, Jonathan Sumption, in his lecture, warned about the expanding role of the court. That the moment the courts in any democracy are made to answer political questions, he says sooner or later, political class, the political elite will struggle to control the courts, and the court will lose its independence.
Okay. And that is
so we've got to be very careful
exactly
the way we are going. And that's why, as umpire, recognizing the fact that in an attenuated democracy, with weak participation and control, when elite interest becomes normative, we have a duty right now, even though we don't want to be found in this arena of controversy, because the now politician, the now umpire, they are opposite in their functional contents. Their waters must never meet, like the river Niger and river Benue. Okay. Because whenever they meet,
yes,
their victim will be impartiality. So, but we provide technical information.
Okay.
One of which we provide when we return on break.
Now, the other thing that was glaring in Anambra, because quite frankly it's become a tradition there, is the whole matter about the poor voters turnout. And the system that we run, we don't have the issue of getting to a certain threshold to legitimize whatever the result of the election is. Even if theoretically only 1,000 people come out, then those 1,000 people, in the case of Anambra, for example, would have determined and could have determined who the victor would be in the election. Are you worried about that?
Well, theoretically and practically, the relationship between authority and exercise of power has to be reflected with the issue of legitimacy. It brings to fore the issue of legitimacy. Whether those who are in public office are there on the basis of the majority of the people, all right, giving that affirmation, authorization to be there. But however, in practical terms, across the world, voter turnout has always been very low. But let's speak about Nigeria here. And in particular, talk about this Anambra. Generally, if you look at even the 2019, 2015, look at the voter turnouts. 30-something and all of that. We have not been 52. I think the highest was 52 or something like that. Now, in Anambra, for instance, first we must take note of one of the issues you just mentioned. That in Nigeria, there's no law, like in Australia or some other jurisdiction, for compulsory voting. Therefore, many people may not come out to vote. Number two, and perhaps far more important, is that the level of apathy that we witness in our country is a reflection of the failure of the political parties to rally around the citizens on the basis of programs and policies that citizens consider have reflection in their life. Consequently, they now disengage from participation. In Anambra, for example, you just talked about, if my memory is not failing me, I know that since 1999, that state has never attained the threshold of even 50%. I think about, in 2010, to about 320 total vote cast as at that time. All right? The one of this Anambra, they just concluded elections, we had a total of 253,000 vote casts. So in 2010, I think the figure then was about 25% as at that time. No, it was even 16%. 60% as at that time. Then in 2013, it was 25%. Then in 2017, it was 22% voters turnout. And unfortunately, in this particular election, it was about 10%. Now, I must point out one fundamental error we make.
Okay, before you continue, yes, could you hold your thought, please?
Yes.
You wanted to bring out a fundamental error we make in the conduct of these elections. Because Tony in the UK has called in. Good morning, Tony. Please go ahead now.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
I just want to pose a question to Mike Igini about the new device. Because we cannot remove
the possibility. The bimodal voters accreditation system?
Yes. I cannot remove the possibility of it being snatched during a general election. Is it possible that if that device is snatched from that environment, it will automatically be deactivated? That's my question.
Okay. All right, Tony. Thank you.
Yes, very quickly on that.
Yes.
The incident of snatching, you could see that in the last, since 2019, it has not been as was the case previously. But with respect to what we have, snatching either a smart card reader or a beavers will not earn whoever may have asked those to snatch it any vote at all. You are like someone who stole the barn of a community. Where are you going to beat it? It will be of no consequence, because we will have replacement for that. But again, that goes to the issue about security. Because for somebody to be able to go through that layer of security and get to a point of the polling unit, it shows that there must be a breakdown of security layers on the way to that polling unit. So that issue about snatching, people have now come to realize that it's of no consequence. Time there was where you snatch ballot papers and you go and write result, and of course they were turning. Those are the old things are passed away.
Okay.
Things talk about them at all.
Let me bring in Yakub. Mr. Yakub in Dokwemo. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. And then good morning to the friend of the house, Mr. Maki Guinea. Let me give you a professor today, because Mr. Maki Guinea is one of our fellow member of this studio, because we really miss you a lot because of this job that you take. But I foresee in the nearest future you become the Oga Patapata in the neck. I can see that. So having said that, Chibiori, you see, I just want to point out something. When we are talking about direct and indirect primary election, Mr. Maki Guinea said something earlier that INEC lack power to do anything. It's only to observe when the political party are carrying out all their primary election. Yes, but if you let me say this. For me personally, this is my own personal opinion. Direct primary election, it is good for political party. Why am I saying that? A station whereby you will never give a room to a godfather or a powerful governor in a state to pick point who go to National Assembly, who go to State Assembly, and then who even become the local government chairman that does not even know that more than we that will live in the locality, that we know who we want to vote for, and then you will force that person if it is not direct primary. Are you getting what I'm trying to say? Because indirect primary give room for governors and then quote and unquote the political gladiator to choose for us. We that we are in grassroots here. So
okay, I get the point you're making, and you started off by referring to Mike's comment that INEC doesn't have anything whatsoever to do with primaries of political parties.
No, the point I made was that by virtue of Section 85, our duty is to monitor. We don't conduct political party primaries. Even though politicians want us to do so, we don't want to do so.
Okay.
Because politician, umpire, the hallmark of an umpire is impartiality.
Yeah.
In politics, you can afford to be partial. And that's why I said the waters of umpire and politics or politicians should not meet like River Niger and River Benue. Because when they meet, the ability will be impartiality. And when that happens, it becomes dangerous to our democracy.
Okay.
But what we have done was to develop templates to see that they follow their process. But in any case,
whichever process they choose.
They choose, whichever one they choose.
So Yakub's point was that he understands that, but he was then offering the opinion that, you know, if it were up to him, he'd say direct, let's go direct. But to quickly return to your train of thought, that one of the mistakes we continue to make.
When we talk about voters' turnouts, we are a bit selective, a kind of selective amnesia when it comes to the issue about voters' turnout, without looking at how did you arrive at that? First, on the registered voters, because we are basing everything on the total number of registered voters in any particular constituency. But we are forgetting the fact that before you can really arrive at the actual voters turnout, you must have first and foremost disaggregate the voter register in terms of, one, how many dead people do we have on the register? That has not been removed. There are people who are on that register who have traveled, who are no longer in that jurisdiction. They are still on that register. There are people who ordinarily should not be there. They are still on that register. Now, when I talk about even the, what do you call it, the selective amnesia of the thing, you find out that in our country, it's only when you talk about presidential election, governorship election, and state assembly election that you talk about voters turnout. Why is it that we don't talk about voters turnout when it comes to local government election in Nigeria? That is an arena that we have completely abandoned. And that's why on this program I've said that INEC is working so strong, so hard, because the product we are getting from the local government elections, the people are not people who have gone through the process of true elections. That what we have at local government system are nothing but coronation event.
Okay.
Now, so voters turnout must be looked against the background of, after removing the total number of the dead people, those who have moved their way and all that, before you can talk about the true number of voters turnout. Because in any case, security personnel, most of us who are registered, we don't even vote, yet we are on the register.
Okay. Reverend Dominic in Limosho. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Yori. Good morning, Mike Igini.
Good morning.
Can you hear me, Yori?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead now.
Yori, I want to stand on what Mike Igini has said about removing our courts to make decisions in political issues. That is haunting us today in Imo State. You know, in Imo, if you enter a state, in Imo State, they will say, are you talking to that Supreme Court governor? Everybody, both APC and PDP in Imo, do not have authenticity of the governor we elected. We say it's a Supreme Court governor. That's by the side. But I want to ask Mike Igini one particular question. Will these pieces of iron work in River State? By what? By what system work in River State? If you work in River State, I will give INEC 100% that have matured and have come to a point of independency. Because they know what River State used to be. It's always been done 100%. I mean River State. With this machine working in River State, this is my question. With this system working in River State for too long, we saw in 2015 where a professor cannot read his own, cannot read his own results he wrote in River State in Abuja. We have to give him halogen light. We have to bring more generators for him to see. Will he work in River State? That's my question.
Okay, Reverend. Thank you for calling in.
Reverend, let me tell you, assure you, that the beavers will work anywhere in Nigeria. First, it should be noted that the beavers is not connected to internet. It's not connected to internet. It is powered with battery. Fully charged, it can stay for the next 48 hours.
Yes.
An election is just a question of few hours.
Yeah, but I think the point he was making now, that the incongruity of 100% turnout that has been heard about in previous times.
Yes. Oh, sure. Look, let me tell you. The beavers, or the corridor, which is the parents, and now the improved higher capacity beavers is the new sheriff in town that has brought tremendous energy of hope, of openness, of integrity to fictitious figures that may arrive from anywhere.
The bimodal aspect of its name. That bimodal aspect.
It has the bimodal is now both fingerprint and facial. What normally happened before was that somebody would say that, oh, because my fingerprint could not be captured, therefore let us go direct, let us go manual. There's no room for that anymore.
Oh, okay.
Because for any reason we are not able to confirm your fingerprint, what about your face? We can confirm your face. There's no problem with that. We can confirm your face. There's no problem with that.
So if it's going to be 100%, if it's going to be 100% as has been heard in the past,
Nigeria, it's going to work perfectly.
Okay.
Because we have tried it almost in the sea geopolitical zone of the country. As I told you, it's not even connected to internet.
Okay.
It's just battery powered.
Okay. Mazi Okorafor in Arochukwu. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, Commissioner Ngine.
Good morning.
So, Commissioner Ngine, let's look at this issue. what is the capacity in terms of the charging system of the beaver? Because the person of this electronic gadget, they have the charging system for some hours. So what is the capacity of that one? And what you have just been saying, Nigerians, are we assured that this late announcement of results by INEC, with the new system you have adopted, the INEC have adopted now, will it help us? Because it is very, very disheartening that when you conduct the election in the daytime, you'll be hearing results around early in the morning next day. Because the timing, based on the capacity of what we have now as a sort of mass production, the way I look at it, and quick delivery of the result. And thank God, like you rightly said, that it has now disfigured all those ballot snatchers and named them. And the question now, the judicial system that you are just raised, are we sure that the INEC will try as much as possible making that all the judicial cases that John before the swearing event will be finished before the swearing of the new governor? Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Yes, very quickly. I want to, with every sense of responsibility on the basis of what we know we have done, have tried, have tested, have piloted, that Nigerians should be assured that what we have come up with is a robust system. The beavers, just like the corridor, let us be very clear here. The corridor, the issue we had with corridor was confirming your biometric. That was the issue. All right? Because technology is always evolving and improving, we now have an improved device which has, bigger capacity and capability. Now, you all recall the Edo election, governorship election, Ondo election, over 25 state constituency elections we have conducted in this country. For the purpose of timeliness, accuracy of results, as reflected by the people, we now have what they call the result view portal that is open to everybody. In the case of Edo State, it was upgraded to accommodate over 2 million people across the world. We are going to get to a point in this country where the result of election, if we get to a point where projection can be made by anybody. I mean, in America, do you hear that even one umpire announcing the election? It is CNN. They will make the projection. So, in due course, because for now, it is only INEC, I must warn, that can make a return. But that does not preclude the system we now have that is more open. The results are out there for everybody to see.
But only INEC
can now say that Mr. A or B has hereby returned as the winner.
Okay.
But that does not preclude party having their situation room, just as we have our own, comparing the result as they come.
Okay. Adolphus in Abuja. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Kuyori.
Thank you for calling in. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Guinea.
Good morning.
Mr. Guinea is one person that we always admire because of his straightforwardness. But I want to make a contribution. You see, the INEC result portal has really changed a lot in our electoral system, I must confess. I've been following INEC elections since you started that. But there's one thing I want Mr. Guinea to give us clearance on, or INEC should work on. This, you rightly said this here on the program, that this issue of voters turnout. A lot of you cannot really state that the number of registered voters that we have in the register, some people have migrated, some people are not registered, some people that are registered are not voting. We have a peculiar problem. For example, in FCT, election is coming up in February. There are a lot of people who doesn't have voters card. You see, in Nigeria today, because of the economy, there's a lot of migration. People migrate every day. There are a lot of people who want to vote, but they don't have voters card. And the process of registration has become so cumbersome that it is difficult to register. And I don't know why it is not possible for INEC to make the process of registration so easy for people who want to register to always go to register. I don't know why registration of voters is punctuated. I don't know why it cannot be a continuous process for people to always register anytime they want. So I want INEC to look into it and make sure to see that people who wants to get voters card get it easily. The technology that INEC is rolling out now for election is very, very laudable. And I know that if they continue like this, in a very short time, people will have more confidence in our elections, and everybody want to have voters card, everybody want to vote. But they should make it possible for you to have voters card to vote at any point in time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yes, very quickly on that. Maybe you are not aware of
registration process.
On CVR, we have made it very simple. And that is why we are now introduced the online. You will sit in your comfort of your bedroom. You can get yourself registered if you have not registered before. Two, once you have done that registration, the pre-registration online, what you only do based on the time you have fixed, because the local government, the particular area, everything is right there on the platform. Once you do that registration, pre-registration, you go to the office and submit your biometric. You are good. Now we have decided that, look, it's not all Nigerians that have laptops. It's not all Nigerians that have power. So the traditional process of people going to the office is already ongoing. We have that going across the country. It's going in all the 774 local government in the Federal Republic of Nigeria and INEC state head offices. In due course, very soon, the Commission is going to announce to the nation that we are going to move to the world, because that will be closer, because we recognize the difficulties of Nigerians having to move from where they are domiciled to local government offices that are far away from where they live. We appreciate that. But now, very soon, that will come up. We are going to cascade, move down to the world level, and even do rotation within the world. So be assured that that will be done, because we have up to now till next year, around maybe November, August, October, as the Commission may announce in future where this exercise will stop for the purpose of the February 2023 election.
Thank you, Mike. We've run out of time, but I just want to squeeze in the whole matter of electoral offenses and convictions or lack thereof to help this whole process. How satisfied are you with this aspect of the bag? Very briefly, please.
That is one area that we
are
not satisfied at all.
Okay.
We are not satisfied at all, because people whose action undermine the integrity of public institutions, particularly those who devaluate, who destitute the ballot, must be brought to book. And that's what we try to do in Akwa Ibom. Regrettably, the same judiciary, while we commend Akwa Ibom State Judiciary for a fantastic, the first of its kind, but regrettably, another High Court judge had, granted bail in an unusual manner by indicting the Court of Appeal. That Court of Appeal will not listen to the appeal of the convicted man on time and free him.
So there still are
so we still have issue in that area. You understand? Because it is important.
We've run out of time completely.
We run out of time.
But you've made the point.
We must safeguard the institution we are putting in place. Otherwise, people want to take advantage of the system.
Thank you very much, Mike Igini. And I know there's a lot more where all of this came from, but it always is the case. Exactly. You satisfy us so much that we don't have the time for it. Thank you very much for coming on. Mike Igini, Resident Electoral Commissioner in Akwa Ibom State. And also thanks to all of you that also called in, to ask him questions and seek clarification. As always, thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay, so that's our program. Please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I am Yori Folarin. Bye-bye for now.